Hey, this is Mead. Welcome to the channel. If it's your first time, that's totally cool. Love it. Glad you're here. If you're coming back to the channel, that's even more amazing. If you have questions, of course, leave comments in the video. I read and respond to every comment. Today we have a really cool topic. So we're going to do an overview of anatomy books. Anatomy books, again, are distinct from how to draw books. You kind of need both in your library. You need like an anatomy book or two, and you need a figure drawing book or two, so that you kind of get a process of how to draw the figure and the technical and intellectual information that you need to understand what it is you're actually drawing. These are some that you might find commonly or less commonly, and stuff that you might find useful. I have one in particular that, if you're new to this, is really useful. First, I want to talk about Anatomy Lessons from the Great Masters. This one I think I bought at a Barnes & Noble when I was in college, before I even switched to being an art major. It's one of those that is so popular because it was just the only thing available and in print. So this is an old book. I must have bought this in the year 2000. Yeah, this is a paperback edition in 2000, initially published in 1977, so it's old school. It's not a good book, ultimately, as an anatomy book goes. The only reason you would get this is because you get little images on every other page of a really cool drawing from art history. Some of the more interesting ones are the ones where you see some of the sketchier parts and not necessarily the ones that are finished and rendered. The drawings that are kind of to the left of everything, they're not good. If I were to buy this as an anatomy book, I think that would be really bad, and I cannot recommend this as an anatomy book. If you just want some cool pictures of old master drawings, then yeah, you could get this book. But if you didn't want them printed, you could just download them. That one, I would give like an F as far as an anatomy book. It's not good. Don't get it. This book is called Force Drawing Human Anatomy. This is my required one for my intro to figure drawing class. I find it really useful. The segments are color-coded on the side of the page, so that's nice. It's really easy to navigate. And basically what you do is you skip the section that's in white. That's all covered by your figure drawing book and not your anatomy book. Now, the cool thing about this is that you get a lot of these little illustrations here, and each set of illustrations shows you how the shape that you're trying to learn changes or distorts based on the movement of the figure. Essentially, the process of learning anatomy and figure drawing is learning shapes and memorizing those shapes and being able to apply those shapes out of your head or apply them when you're looking at a figure model. And this is really useful for that. What I usually do is just break this book out and pick something to study and copy it, and then go find a reference photo and look for that within the reference and try to draw that reference based on the knowledge that I have from this book. So I can't recommend this one enough. It's really good. If I remember correctly, it's not too terribly expensive as far as art books go. It's really nice. We'll look at Stonehouse's Anatomy next. This is like a serious tome, you know? This thing is massive. Must be 1,000 pages. I don't know. No, like 650. Pushing over 500. It's actually really entertaining and explains a lot more detail than you probably would need to know. So this is basically the anatomy reference book that you read through because it's really fun and the commentary is hilarious at times and explains a lot of functions, and then you would probably just pull out every once in a while. It is not a how to draw book. There's not a lot of like information here about really how to lay these out, how to structure this anatomy out. But it is really interesting. There's a lot of deviations and explanations of how stuff works, how the motions work. And it's a cool one. It's expensive. I remember it being very expensive. So I don't know if that's the one that I would spend my money on first. That would probably go in last priority of like what I would want to purchase if I could only get one or two things. The next one is also from the Super Ani Press. This is Rakheh Kim's anatomy drawing class, and I like it for where I'm at. I think I would recommend this for anyone who's more advanced and has worked your way through some anatomy and some figure drawing already, but you want to get to like a real true mastery level, which requires a lot more work. I think the time that it takes to go from beginner to intermediate is really quick, but to go from intermediate to advanced is also like pretty good. Getting to the mastery level, I think, takes a lot of time and a lot of work, exponentially more than it does going from beginner to intermediate and intermediate to advanced. This one I really like because this integrates with my own way of thinking. He talks a lot about, he calls it shaping the figure, and what I think about is using flat shapes, converting them to forms, and this is kind of right in line with that. So what's neat is he just gives you lots of examples of basic constructions and basic layouts. And I would say these are more like intermediate constructions. I think you can do simpler layouts that are just as effective as base layouts. So what you might do is use your simple form layouts, then learn these kinds of things. And of course, like every book, it kind of goes in detail into heads. I think this is interesting because it's like somewhere between anatomy and drawing. Once you get to chapter 3 here, that's where the anatomical knowledge starts. It's also a horizontal format for a book, which is odd. It's a little bit different. I don't know if I like that, but it's fine. It's a little bit unwieldy if you're trying to hold it up, but as far as laying it out on a table, it does stay open really nicely, which is good. So that makes it like much easier to study. So this chapter 3 is like the bulk of the book. This is where the real information happens. Love this chapter though. Understanding anatomy through motion is chapter 4, and so this is where you start to see different angles and different poses come in and breakdown of how the anatomical shapes distort and change as the body moves around. This, for me, is really useful because a lot of what I'm drawing in particular to learn how to storyboard has to do with motion and posing and acting and all the action scenes and stuff like that. So for me, I love this segment and studying this segment. By the time we get here, there's a lot less breakdown and more finished drawings, which is fine because by this point you should be able to break down a drawing and use simple shapes to understand it yourself. So this stuff's really nice. There's also a little bonus chapter at the end. He goes over different proportions and different body types, like this superhero, villain, anti-hero body types. Kind of goes over some of the main distorted anatomical tropes. I think there's even like an example of monstery things and stuff with armor and all of that. He does go into some applications of how you might actually use this anatomical knowledge and develop it. I really enjoy this one. I'd say this one's like super awesome. So to review, in Anatomy Lessons from the Great Masters, we have a total misnomer. It's not really an anatomy book. It's basically just a compilation of stuff out of art history. We've got our giant tome in Stonehouse's Anatomy, which is really expensive and probably something that you want to get later if this is your first sort of purchase. It is awesome though. It's worth having in your library. But then the two highly recommended ones, we've got Forest Drawing Anatomy. This one is if you're beginning and really want to get into figure drawing and anatomy. If you're intermediate, going to advanced, looking for something more technical, maybe you would get Rocket Kim's anatomy drawing class. That's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you liked it a lot. I always enjoy talking about this stuff. It's taken me a while to find some really good ones that aren't just a wall of text, an image of art history, and a bad digital diagram. I feel like the textbook market has kind of like flooded all the bookshelves out there in stores with information like that, but finally these publishing companies and independent artists are kind of putting this stuff out there that's actually really useful and really cool and really show you what you actually want to know and need to know to be a professional artist, and that's really cool. If you made it this far into the video, I really appreciate all of your time. Watch out for more stuff on the channel. We're going to do a variety of videos coming up. I'll have some courses coming out on ArtStation that'll be paid, but I'm going to keep them at a affordable price and jam-pack them with a lot of in-depth information that's just kind of too much for the YouTube environment. I appreciate it. I hope you had fun. Have fun drawing and keep working hard at it.